Well, when I put the Burger King,
Would you like a candy?
no, I put the Burger King Crown Royal in front of it.
We good?
Yep, yeah.
All right. For the listening public, I'll open up this town council for June 26th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All you, Twyla.
Okay. We'll begin with roll call. Councilor Albert.
Here.
Councilor Colby.
Here.
Councilor Brunel.
Here.
Councilor La Rochelle.
I have not heard from him. Vivian.
Councilor Ward.
Here.
Councilor Lunt.
Here.
And Councilor Crawford.
Here.
Okay.
Next item.
Under good news and recognition, we'd like to do Order 2018-123, the proclamation for Staff Sergeant Thomas J. Fields' 25th anniversary. You need a motion?
I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to make sure that we're consistent. I know that in the past when we've had a counselor out, we talked about that and we instituted a rule regarding that. Is this considered a workshop piece of it? If it's not, then I think it's important that we do the vote to remain consistent.
Do you think he'll show up if he didn't remember it was at 6, or do you think he'd be a little late?
I'm telling you right now, I'm going to vote in favor of
right now.
excuse, but it does, yeah, it doesn't. But I just want to see what.
I'm sending Fern a text right now to actually resolve exactly that. So maybe
Okay.
we can just approach it right now and we'll get the answer.
Yeah, I think that's A-okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were consistent in our approach.
So
Later?
later. Let's defer that vote to later in the discussion and proceed.
Thank you, and sorry for interrupting, Twyla.
All right, so we're ready for a vote for the proclamation. We need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Proclamation passes 6-0, and I'll read it for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we want to call any of the family present?
Yes.
Yes.
Those family members, would they please come forward? We have a proclamation to give the family of Thomas Field. Why don't you join me at the podium? And you are Fred Field, his brother, so welcome. And I guess you have a few other relatives here with you, for sure. You have some
Well,
pieces?
the friends
Want
of
to
the family.
stand? For those who want to stand?
That's Shelley and Sherry
Oh,
White.
wonderful.
They take care of the memorial for Tom.
Great. And the Legion members here, would they like to stand? Nice. All right, so it begins. Whereas the Lisbon Town Council recognizes the 25th anniversary of our departed American soldier, Staff Sergeant Thomas J. Field, also known to many as Tommy Field, who served in the 160 Special Operations Aviation Regiment Airborne, also known as the Night Stalkers, an elite group of the Army's best aviators. Whereas he was a crew chief on Super 6-4, one of the Black Hawk helicopters that was shot down during Operation Gothic Serpent in the Battle of Mogadishu in Somalia. Whereas the battle ended up being the biggest firefight for American troops since the Vietnam War. Whereas Staff Sergeant Field survived the crash but was killed with a Valor device, Meritorious Service Medal, and the Purple Heart. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Town Council of the Town of Lisbon that his ordeal and that of his comrades, being the basis for the award-winning movie Black Hawk Down, has left an everlasting impression on our community. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be framed and displayed at the Town Hall in his honor as we remember him and mourn for those who loved him and lost him that day. And this is your copy of it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
We'd just like a picture with you and your friends and the you mind coming forward?
Good.
That's, yeah. Right, right behind. Yep. Oh, I got it chopped out of it anyways. Okay, look again. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you all for coming.
Mr. Larachelle's on the way.
Wonderful news. Oh. Thank you for coming.
I'd like to ask Dawn to come up and join me. Dawn Fellows, on behalf of the Maine Association of Planners, we would like to present you with the 2018 Citizen Planner of the Year Award.
Really?
Yes, really. And if I may, I would like to read some of the narrative that went along with the nomination. It explains very well, as many of us know Don and his tireless devotion and hard work for the town and the planning board. These are some of the words that won the award. Don Fellows has served as a member of the Town of Lisbon Planning Board since 2009, including 3 terms as chair, and was an inaugural member in 2013 of the committee which became established as the Lisbon Development Committee, tasked with implementing several Lisbon plans. Don's leadership in planning has not only guided the town's planning board towards becoming a more professional and forward-thinking committee, but he is one of the key community members to help establish Lisbon's Development Committee. He is known for the great amount of time he puts in as a volunteer working on planning and development ideas, policies, and even ordinances, almost as much as he is known for being incredibly effective in working with individuals and groups to build consensus and drill down into issues to find better solutions.
Really?
Don is a true champion for planning through his valued and respected role in the planning board, as well as through his support and promotion for planning at council and other community meetings and with residents and community groups. He brings a balanced approach to development review, able to uphold the rules and intent of local regulations while evaluating reasonable compromise, which allows good development to happen, protecting town and public interests while also incorporating private interests. And Don is also a champion for Lisbon. His talent for looking to plan towards Lisbon's future while truly listening to and understanding residents' and businesses' current needs and concerns has made a huge impact on Lisbon's ability to develop, adopt, and implement various town plans. Don is an effective voice for advocating for sound planning policies and local regulations while working to build consensus among residents and councilors.
At least I didn't have to write that. Thank you.
Congratulations. Photo.
We have to take a picture. Can't see it, but there it is. Little beard and all. Thank you.
Next item, Tyler.
Is the public hearing for the municipal budget.
Before we dive into that, I just wanted to go ahead. I took a look at the agenda real quick, and I noticed that the transition from the rec to the, from the Economic Development Office to the rec is way down on the agenda. We have a lot of folks here from that, just in the interest of making sure that we get to hear all of those folks as well.
Sure.
I know I'd mentioned moving that up, so if we could take that opportunity to do that now, that would be great.
I got no issue with content, so by all means.
So we're on C, Moxie transition
Yeah.
to rec department.
I think if we just move that up, that way we have plenty of opportunity for the folks who
No
are here to get a
objections?
chance to chime in.
Good. All right.
Other business.
Okay, so who's going to frame that one?
So I don't mind jumping in here. Last couple of years, we've talked about transitioning the MOXIE planning from the ED's Economic Development Office into the rec departments under their umbrella. And the reason for that is just made the most sense to do that. Also, it's an opportunity for us to develop some efficiencies and give Tracy the opportunity that she needs to be able to put that core focus on bringing and attracting new business here to Lisbon. But past couple of years, we'd bring that up usually right in the middle of the process, so we wouldn't be able to get that transition done. As we approach MOXIE for this year, I think it makes great sense. They're going to have their RAP meeting at the end of July, and that's the best time for us to transition from one to the other. So it'd be a clean and seamless transition and give the rec department that much time to kind of hit the ground running. So that's the framework behind this, and I think that's something we've been talking about for the last couple of years anyway.
To follow up on Councillor Albert, you guys heard it as a discussion during the budget workshop, which brings us to this point here. The intent is to have it ahead of this year's festival, so anything that we're talking about can be in place for next year's festival, not 2 years out to miss that window of opportunity again. Do we have a clear idea of where we'd like to be? Concept, yes. Actual nuts and bolts of that discussion, it's an open discussion. So that said, I know there are a lot of folks here that have an opinion on that, have vested interest in that. I would like to just call you to the podium if you would like to express your views at this point so we can actually move this discussion forward. So if anybody would like to address the podium, please do so. Thank you, Mark. For the listening public, just say who you are.
Right. My name is Mark Stevens. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. Just for conversation, I think it's really important that I haven't really had a chance to meet with the Recreation Committee to talk about this. I did meet with our staff for a short, just a 15-minute staff meeting about a week ago, or a few days ago, and I think there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and I don't think it's going to be as seamless. I mean, I appreciate that, but it's not going to be as seamless as you might think because it's a huge endeavor. It's been going on since 1982. There's been a lot of groundwork that's been put into setting the MOXIE Festival up the way it is right now, and it's a huge opportunity, and I do appreciate the confidence that you have in our department. And with respect to Tracy, I mean, she has worked, I think she's worked really hard in getting it to where it is, getting a lot of volunteers with setting up. I mean, 2 years ago, the MOXIE Festival Committee was like 3 people. And now I think you've built it back up to a solid number of good volunteers, hoping that volunteer base, that committee stays in place in the transition if this is something to where you want to go. I know the rec committee has probably a lot of questions. I'm not sure if they're ready to ask them tonight, but certainly will be in the future, and also our staff. So,
if we were to proceed forward with this, Mark, are there anything that you would see that would need to happen to make that transition succeed? I know it's kind of an open question, but trying to open that dialogue now to have anything play so we're not just missing another opportunity, because we had this discussion last year during the budget, and the fact is, well, we can't do anything now because it won't impact the future festival. We're talking 2 festivals out. You know, so trying to be ahead of that curve, again, that's why we're having this now, so we can plan accordingly. So if you had a punch list,
I need to put
what
some
would be
thought
on
in.
it?
I really need to put more thought into it before I say, for the record, what we need for sure. 3 years ago, I think less than 3 years ago, we were given the opportunity to take over the Parks Department, and it's been an awesome opportunity. But we're still not on all 8 cylinders. We're running, we're still trying to catch up. We just had a full-time staff member put on board, and that's been incredibly helpful. But we started 3 weeks late, and so we're still catching up. We're trying to make that a perfect, work situation for us right now. But right now we're behind. We're trying to figure out all the scheduling of all the parks and gardens and trails.
Sure.
And so taking on the MOXIE Festival, I mean, we could do it, but I need to really think about what I need for a punch list to give to you before I just said something tonight.
Well, I think that's fair. In fact, there's a reason you're seeing it now is just to have that discussion be something to move towards rather than just a missed opportunity for the discussion. Absolutely, sir.
Thank you, Mark. And I would have discussed this a little bit, not at length by any means, but just basically just kind of overview of what tonight's meeting may be. And I think it's really important to realize that as all departments are stressed out, I mean, everybody's got way too much, I shouldn't say way too much, but a lot on their plate with limited resources. And the meeting that we had earlier this year was the idea of discussing the idea of potentially using some of the funds from Moxie to actually bring someone on part-time to actually help with the festival, which is challenging by itself because it's still someone you need to there's still actually people, whoever comes on actually still needs to have some type of support staff behind them. I know you have plenty going on in your department as far as recreation and with the parks and everything else that's happening. Is it not unreasonable to think, as that punch list may be, that you'll be looking at, if you were to take this on, what resources you have to bring on an additional staff part-time to actually help with the festival? I mean, is that...
That's not unreasonable.
I mean, that's a discussion we've already had when it was in one department, and going to a different department, it actually has just as many, pokers in the fire, if you want to put it that way. I mean, so that would need to be discussion, I think, myself, moving forward, is how do we handle that, and to what limit, or how can that be, mixed in with other opportunities. But
you want somebody that has experience in event coordinating. You want to have the Moxie committee involved in part of these decisions being made, and also the recreation committee combined. Yeah. I think it's going to be a full effort on everybody's part.
I guess my point is more, the rec committee does not have the resources to take this on without thinking there's going to need to be some outside assistance.
And I don't. One of the themes that we've done through the entire budget, I'm glad it's actually been moved up in the agenda, is the fact that we have tried to listen to staff's goals for the coming year and give you the resources to be able to succeed. I think that's a fair assessment of this budget that's actually here. There are a lot of things in it that somebody that's strictly looking at it at dollars and cents, the town is behind. But I would challenge the fact is that it's selling us short to actually continually be going at it the same approach. There are investments in our community that are in this budget that speak volumes. So that said, there is a part-time position. I know that Winds kind of got set out of that kind of poorly. They had somebody start, and they took another position. I look at that. That's still a 25-hour position, Tracy. What were the hours on that?
It really depends as far as on at the beginning of the
Please, I'm sorry. Just so everybody can hear.
Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director. In regards to the Moxie Festival, as far as the timeline, we start planning August. And usually during the first few months, it's not as critical. We get more into the theme design and what we're going to do, sponsorship. The critical time is usually hits about April as we get into the springtime, and then it's making all the arrangements. And that's when it's full force. In regards of the committee is very small.
But my question was,
and
the staff position was how long?
Well, I have never had a staff person.
I know we
were working on that, and what we had calculated was probably about 20 hours a week as a part-time.
Throughout the entire year?
Throughout, yes. And that was and I was looking at from April until right up to the Moxie Festival weekend. Right.
And the only reason I was trying to address that, Mark, is to make the point is that the dialogue is receptive to change to be able to have it succeed. That's the point that I want people to take away from this, is because one staff person that's been the primary lead from this has got a certain point that we're not going to take it any further. If we're going to change the approach, we're having the dialogue before those key time frames to have it be able to succeed. That would be the piece that I would have taken away from this. Go ahead, Mark. You look like you have a question or a comment. No?
I'm listening. I'm just listening.
I think one of the key pieces here to focus on, and it's something that Cassie and I were talking about right before the start of the meeting, is that we can take a look at, and we did in the budget season, so we have a pretty good understanding because we're still pretty close to that, how the resources that Mark has are allocated and the time. So if he has somebody that's 20 hours, and I'm going to pick on Mr. Lehman because he's right there, and I don't necessarily know it's 20 hours.
He'll take it.
Yeah. The idea is that whatever hours is allocated for a particular resource that Mark has, he's also going to be able to show us where that person's probably doing more than what their scheduled hours are. And so that once we look at the overall number of assets that he has versus hours of work time that have to be done just under the Parks and Rec umbrella right now, it'll give us a clear understanding when we transition this over what he's going to need. Because if he doesn't have available hours for the current staff that he has, which I think we'll probably end up finding that might look like that, then we have to say to ourselves, if we were willing to commit a resource to assist Tracy this year, we may have to look at the same piece as well. But the key here is the idea of growth in the festival will support that position eventually. And once we get some different efficiencies in place and maybe some more growth, we can talk about, it's going to be running smoother, not more difficult, and therefore you will see those efficiencies and maybe even, fingers crossed, we generate enough revenue to pay for that type of position. And time will tell, but at least that's a good framework and a plan to try to say, this is what we'd like to see, let's see how we can get there.
One of the other sound bites that I know I clearly heard, I believe it was Fern that actually said it through the course, is the fact that we have a community center. It's a community festival. I think the best housing for it is somebody that's right there invested in already what the community programming is to bring out the best parts of that to push the festival in a different direction. And to me, it makes sense. The fact is, tell us where we're actually wrong, where do we actually need to be able to do it, so that next year the festival goes off without a hitch, but we actually aren't putting somebody in a position to come up with that gap and make it not behind the cloak, actually flounder. Nobody should flounder. Please.
You keep saying push it in another direction. What direction is it that you're looking for? I guess that's where I'm hung up. Are you looking for more out of the festival? Are you looking, what is it that you're looking for?
To me, it's been always an awkward discussion to anybody outside of this community to actually have to justify why our festivals run by our economics and development community person. That's an awkward conversation. I know it's an unfair service to you because you were hired for that skill set at that point in time, and if you weren't involved in that, it doesn't always make sense. Where I'm looking at it now is the fact is if it's a community festival and we have a community and a recreation committee, I would just like to house it better there to be able to draw the resources from it. That's what I'm saying different.
Why can't we have both departments working on it? The only reason why I say that is because when planning for this festival, we initiate with the other businesses in this community. So to me, that would be an economic community development. They have the rapport with the businesses and whatnot, and they're getting that stuff. But then, like you said, you have the recreation part of it as well, for the events that are going on or whatever be. I don't think we need to cut it down the middle and say it goes to this department or it goes to this department.
I hear where you're coming from, if you don't mind me jumping in here.
Please.
I think the thought process there is that the Economic Development Office will play a role, and then I'll use Tracy's timeline that she mentioned. Shortly after the festival, August kicks in. That's the best time to go get your sponsors because they still have that warm, fuzzy, feel-good, hey, we just did something good here, I'm going to grab them up. If you can get 80% of your sponsors for this year to commit for next year's festival right there and then, you're on the right track. But that's the role that office should play because they're going to be out and about anyway, trying to speak with the businesses that have participated, so that makes perfect sense. But as far as the actual overall framework, planning, development, that should be handled by the rec so that it allows and frees up. I don't want to continue, and this is just my thought, I don't want to bring somebody in to help the ED through the year with planning of Moxie when if we're going to talk about this, putting that under the rec department, allowing them the opportunity to mentor somebody in there, maybe not in a full year-round position, but in a position that will be able to look at the current process that we have, develop efficiencies the same way he has with his programs, which have created revenue far beyond what they anticipated or expected. So I think there's a skill set there that Mark has to be able to take somebody and mold them and shape them and mentor them to look at ways to take things that have been successful and expand on them, and things that aren't successful in the Moxie Festival, and peel them back to find ways to gain more revenue and more opportunity to attract folks to the festival and maybe businesses to the community.
How many more people do you want? We have like 40,000 that come in one weekend. I mean, that's pretty, I think, phenomenal for a community of
I'm not
six.
impugning anything about
No,
the
no, I'm
current
just
staff. You know, if you're asking me, double. Because if I'm A-okay with as many people, this festival grows, that's more exposure for our community to other folks that maybe have never come through here. So yeah, you're darn right. I want every eye, and I want us to have to hire on more folks for that festival. I want us to. That's a great problem to have. So, you know, and that's just my 2 cents for what it's worth. But I think that Tracy's done a great job. But I'm sure that she would much rather, being part of the office that she is, focused on having that good problem and all those folks fielding calls saying, hey, we never looked at Lisbon before as a business place, but now we want to. And then she can dive into the mix and say, great, let me tell you about how we can make that happen.
Councilor Brunel.
We've been talking about this for a while. Do you want out or do you not want out?
It's not a matter of my opinion, what I want or what I don't
I'm
want.
asking you
I
a
mean,
question, that's all.
here,
I mean, you can either
I'm
answer
here,
yes or no, or you can...
I'm here for the community, so if that's the role that council and manager
You like
prefers
it,
me
you
into
enjoy
doing
it, you want to continue to do it. Are you going to answer the question?
My question, I'm answering the question as far as that I love my job and I love doing what I do for the community, whether it be, you know, I look at all avenues on that, but
don't
I
mind
am a
doing-
one-person, I'm a one-person department.
One person show, and you don't mind doing it. Mark, do you want to take it or don't you? I mean, honestly, is it something you say, okay, we're going to field up the team, we're going to go?
Be honest.
Right, absolutely. This is where it's at right now.
I've never said no to anything.
I understand. You both,
Well,
you both do a
that's-
great
you
job.
know,
Don't stop right there.
as far
Stop
as-
right there. You both do a great job. I don't.
Councilor Brunel,
I don't
if
wanna
you're
think-
asking me right out as far as on, I would, if I had the opportunity to focus my work on other avenues, absolutely. I mean, there's
If you had a
more
part-time person,
if I had a part-time person to be able to help out,
you'd say, yay, I'm still in. Moxie, I love it. My office is full. I love it. I love it.
but I don't
Mark,
want
you got no
to.
problem with that, do you?
So no, I have no problem with that. But
Right.
I want to let you know that 75% of our business is June and July and August.
Mm-hmm.
Add the Moxie Festival to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
We're exceeding our revenue expansion. We're exceeding our revenue collection this year by over $45,000.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that we have.
Reality there.
Right.
There's a reality
That is the growth. We've grown 10% the last 3 years. This year we've grown over 20%.
You got enough money to hire somebody. You making that? Is that what you're trying to say? All right.
That's not what he said.
He's like, oh,
That what I
well,
said?
certified.
Did I say that?
I'm just asking. I mean, let's shorten this. We can shorten this right up pretty easy, I
It's
think.
funny when you put stuff out there and all of a sudden it's.
Right. I mean, we don't have to make this long and drawn
I'm
out.
trying to refer to the growth that we've experienced the last 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And I don't see that ending if we continue with the staff that we have. We have awesome staff. We have.
So why don't we
great
hire a full-time
volunteers.
that's a part-time for you and a part-time for you, like one of them split people? Is that what we're all
Well,
talking
one
about?
of the
If
things
you
that's-
guys, obviously you almost got enough money, and I'm sure we can find a little bit more money if we need to for that one person.
One of the things that's challenging, for instance, is that I am the one staff person. I don't have other staff. They don't get paid for it. So my volunteers have families. They have full-time jobs. So I could have a
Everybody else
meeting.
gets to enjoy the festival. I don't.
You know, I have a meeting and there's 3 people that will show up. You know, that's just, I'm coming in at 7 a.m. in the morning. I'm not going home until 8:30 right now. That's my days. But I'm doing it because I want to make sure that it's successful for this community, because that's what I'm here to do, is make sure that everything within my department is successful. And I think of the past 5 years, I've been able to do that. So I do what I have to do to make sure that it happens. My recipe contest person is ill. She had to step back. My other person that was going to step in and do that, she had to step back. So my parade person, God bless her, is no longer here. So I've had to take on that, and I have brought in other people to kind of help, but they can't do all the admin stuff of putting together all of the applications, making sure that the registration forms are in, the insurance cards, and the vehicles are all registered, and doing the lineup and all that. So that's where I'm at. And, you know, that was why when I got the $300,000 grant, it was like, okay, when do I have to do phase 2? Because right now I'm all in Moxie. I can't focus on that stage. And I just don't want to lose those other opportunities for the community because I am just one person.
So on that theme, that's exactly why I think that we need to discuss if she's not able to do what she needs to do for the ED hat, and this is so much so consuming all of that time, it's exactly why we need to be addressing this. It's exactly why. I mean, and I commend you and applaud your effort to come in here at 7 and be here till 8:30, and not just one night of the week. I'm sure you're tireless on this, so thank you. But at the same time, if you go down, what happens to us? Correct. And I don't want to. We may not get somebody who shares your same commitment to time, and then where are we at? I think that one of the biggest short-sightedness for our particular group, and any municipality for that matter, I won't just pick on Lisbon, is that when one position goes away, we shrink it because we want to save the budget dollars, but then we distribute those duties to somebody else. And it's not that someone isn't good at what they do, but everybody has a point where you can say, I cannot wear 17 hats, or I can't even wear 3 hats, because some of those duties associated with these are just so overwhelming, it overtakes your other role, and it doesn't allow you the time to focus. Mm-hmm. So, and it's no fault of the person in the role, because there are only so many hours in the day, only so much energy in your body. And so I really think that we're at a point where we're at that crossroads. We have to talk about this. Yep. And it's not about anybody's effort or lack thereof. It's about just being honest with this and saying, it's too much. It's too much, and we need to look at how we're going to attack this differently. And,
and there is a lot to it to say to Mark or his staff that their role has been with the 5K and the cross show. So in all honesty, they have no idea what's involved with all the other elements to put it together. I mean, the hardest part with this festival, the most easiest thing to do with this festival is if you had one location and you put everything in one location. You won't be running around like a chicken with your head cut off like you are now, because everything is just so spread out. Right. So if we had that opportunity, I could see it where it would go much smoother. Those real conversations, like I said, that's the kind of stuff that needs to happen. Take a look at what we're doing now and talk about what are our challenges here and how can we change that. Where, and you can, I'm sure, speak to that, and she can, and Mark can be there with however we have the staffing resolved when we get to that point, and look at that together and say what makes the most sense here. And with change, people will get upset sometimes, but ultimately if it makes things better, it's a better experience, and it's easier for us to gain volunteers because it's not such a cumbersome beast we have to run from one side of Lisbon Falls to the other side of Lisbon Falls, then, that's about building those efficiencies and saying, what's worked great? What hasn't? What can we do better? So I agree with you 100%.
Dot.
Dorothy Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. Just to throw something else into the mix. When the Moxie Festival started, we had a Lisbon Area Chamber of Commerce. A group of small businesses formed a Lisbon Area Chamber of Commerce. We did everything from getting vendors to cleanup, sweeping the street, taking care of rubbish. We did everything. And then Chamber of Commerce merged with Lewiston and Auburn. The Balloon Festival, am I correct that the Chamber of Commerce does that? No. Oh, they don't anymore.
They do not. They have never done a balloon festival.
Well, I thought that they did.
They have their own festival committee, same as...
Yes, they do.
Okay, I thought that...
Directors, they're their own private organization.
They're their own entity.
Yes, I've served on that board, so...
Okay, my suggestion was going to be that the closest we have to a Chamber of Commerce and a Merchants Association is Positive Change Lisbon, and I wondered if maybe they would be interested in taking over the Moxie Festival. It has grown. It's grown a lot since 1982, when just a handful of us small business people started it. But anyway, just a thought.
To answer on the PCL piece, their CEO, Ross, has come in and talked about that and talked about... Yeah, and he's talked about looking at it as hiring a coordinator to handle that, the same way that Yarmouth does for their clam festival and so on. And I think that when we did the research on that, it was pretty significant investment of resources, more than we had now just to bring on a part-time person. And I think at the end of the day, we don't make enough money to make that worth our while. But I mean, I appreciate you bringing it up. And who's to say that we don't go at PCL again when we're talking about framework, changing that dynamic a little bit, and maybe they become one of the volunteer assets that we would hope for and can do some things.
That was my 2 cents worth.
Luckily, we don't have to solve this problem tonight. It can be an ongoing discussion for sure.
Right.
So I think as everybody goes in, and just to refer back to what Dahl was saying, I mean, as sitting in some of the positive change meetings, there has been a discussion over the last year more so about playing more of an active role, only because the downtown's changed in the last few years. You know, our downtown Lisbon Falls now is quite full of businesses, and some of them have brought forth ideas of doing different things, but part of that would be a change on how things are done. So, I mean, as change goes, you know, it may be a good time to look at that, but I think it all comes down to the idea of just planning ahead and doing what we're doing now. But luckily, we don't have to make that decision tonight. It can just be an ongoing discussion.
Yes, sir.
Gordon Curtis, Town Lisbon. I'd like to know what the expenses are of the Moxie Festival and the revenues, and what it does or has done in the past to increase businesses.
We have seen.
I thought I heard somebody say that it sounded like you're in the red or something like that.
Nope,
No.
not in the red, sir.
No, sir.
Not at all. Nope.
No,
I'm
sir.
happy to. I can spout them off for you right now if you like. Just let me find them real quick. Where's the comparisons? Just want to look at. There was one page that gave it all. Where is it? Total revenue. Okay, so if I use the right, this is 2013 through 2017. Just want to make sure I'm right one.
Mr. Curtis.
No, I'm looking at all of them.
Mr. Curtis.
Are you going to give it to him?
Yep.
So we can follow along?
You can follow along with Mr. Albert. Absolutely. You're welcome, sir.
Starting in 2013, total revenue $28,195, total expenses $26,932 and 17 cents. 14 was $36,575 in total revenue, total expense was $33,399.98. 2015, total revenue $32,796 and 50 cents, total expenses $22,868.48. I like that. 2016, $35,873. Total expenses $26,119 and no change. And then last year, $41,744 versus a total expense of $29,040.71. So as you can see, from 13 up and sure, the last one for 7. You almost got me. So as you can see, pretty consistent growth in total revenue. Expenses fluctuated here and there, and I'm probably sure if we dug in the weeds, we could get a pretty clear understanding as to why some years were a little bit more costly than others. But for the most part, we're seeing consistent growth, which is a tip of the cap to ED and the volunteers for doing what they've been doing. What I'm sure we all would like to see is that finding ways to build more efficiencies so that our total expenses are reduced. While we continue to grow those the total revenue and more of the profit side of the things. So.
To the second part of your question, Mr. Curtis, I think you asked about impact on business. One of the things that was talked about during the budget discussion for recreation and Moxie was the fact that somewhere in the neighborhood of 40,000 people come through town. The budgetary impact of that hasn't been done of recent, but there was a volunteer through St. Matthews, was it? One of the pastors through St. Matthews had solicited local businesses as part of the committee a couple of years back, just trying to get a flavor for how local businesses did on that weekend. And it's kind of a grassroots thing. There isn't really quantified, but obviously with that many people coming through town, there are businesses that do feel the impact of that.
One of the things I think is kind of crucial with this event, and Tracy, I think Diane, I know I've actually always looked at this as it takes the same amount of money to plan for the event, but if you actually have 2 days of torrential rain during the event, it's very possible that there's no revenue. It's actually all expense, and Mark can actually contest the car show. The car show you can kind of move a few weeks down the road, but have a rain date. But it's pretty hard to have a rain date for Moxie Day, so any big event, you just got to be really careful about the expenditures you have and making sure that you just don't make one year the year that actually ends it all because you're actually so far in the red. But again, ongoing discussions as we move forward, I'm sure.
Anybody else brought anything? By all means.
Hello, my name is Bill Cool. I'm a member of the Rec Committee and Positive Change and whatever else I'm doing right now. All I say as a member of the rec committee, if the decision is made to transition this from where it is to Mark and us, is that we are given sufficient manpower, muscle, and budget to do it correctly and not do it in a fashion which is disastrous, because we know if that happens, we'll all be burned at the stake. It's a big deal here in town. I made the misfortune of moving to Lisbon during Moxie weekend years ago, so I know it's something that if it gets out of control or fails or has torrential rain, you need to have enough muscle to have contingency plans for everything around it.
Sure.
So when the council makes this decision, all I ask is that Mark be given sufficient resources to address it correctly.
Only fair, right?
Thank you.
Oh, please.
I just want to say to go on that note, the Moxie Festival, since I've been here, has paid for itself, and that was the goal. When I meet with the committee in August, they start with a zero balance. It is up to the committee to raise the funds depending on what they want to spend, and it's very costly with entertainment and stage and activities and those types of things that you want to have people enough and things for folks to do. So the festival itself, the funds go with the festival. They are earmarked for the festival. We do not go to council and ask for anything other than the resources that we ask for is that of staff for police and public works. At the beginning, when I first started in 2013, what you'll see why there was much more in the expenses is because those departments were paid from the Moxie Festival. And the Moxie Festival Committee never had any money to continue on. So the goal was we worked with the council and asked for the town resources in order for the festival to continue on the path that it has and be able to grow. But again, it pays for itself.
I can think of only one time where you came to us for money, and that was for the fireworks show, the increase, and that was it. So.
Right.
Just because it was so much more expensive that year.
Yep, no, that makes perfect sense. Now, I saw you were going to hop up there. You have anything you want to say? No? Oh, okay. I thought you were jumping up.
Anybody else?
I use my outdoor voice. Can you hear me?
No, you know what?
You still got to present.
It took you long enough to actually make it into the chambers. I want you to come to the podium. I've been looking for you for 2.5 years, mister. Please state your name.
I've been here more than once, Carville Recreation Committee. Couple things I guess I'd offer listening to what's going on. One, as Mark said, as a committee, we haven't discussed this at all. So to ask the rec committee at this point whether we want to take this on in any fashion, I think is premature at best. The other thing, I guess, in listening to some of the things going on here tonight, I think one of the dangers in trying to take it directly in another direction all at once is reading down through the revenues. The revenues and the expenses that were just read, there's probably a fairly consistent amount of difference between the two. So let's call it 20 grand, 25 grand. You hire a part-time person for 20 hours, you've chewed more than that up, and now you've taken a festival that's in the black into the red just by trying to make a change. So I guess I would caution against, I don't know what direction it's taken yet, but I think we want to think about that. And then the last thing, in listening to everything here tonight, I guess my suggestion would be, I know you have to look at things from an annual basis. When I got the call this morning that this was going to be on the agenda tonight, my question was, why are we doing this 2 weeks before the event is going on? Understand there's going to be a meeting at the end of July, to recap it. I think that would be the appropriate time to get all groups together, look at what's been done not only this past year, but in years past, and see how not just the Recreation Committee, but as was suggested, Positive Change Lisbon, other groups, how we can all work together to make this better and do the things that you're talking about. I think that would be the appropriate first step, unless there's something that I'm totally unaware of here.
This smells like a workshop.
You got it clearly on the head.
It probably would be, yes. Yeah.
The intent here is to not miss that window of opportunity for potential.
Right.
So it could be in place next year without missing a step, rather than having to have this be 2 years out.
Yeah.
But if it goes 2 years, at least we're working in the right direction and not missing that chance to even have the dialogue.
Yeah. So I think that would be appropriate.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody here for that discussion? Class dismissed. Let's move on. Thank you. At least I know my audience for the next item. I'll open up the public hearing for the municipal budget now. How's that? Anybody wishing to speak on behalf of that item, please step forward. Come on, somebody give me something. Oh, now you sound like Mr. Fillmore. At least give me something.
Oh.
Seeing no movement in the room, I won't bore anybody. I'll close the public hearing.
Okay.
Next item.
Audience participation and response for agenda items.
Anybody wishing to address the public council on anything on the agenda? I saw a hand. Come on down, sir. No? Yep, come on down.
Ron Creve. I live on 35 Moody Road in Lisbon, and there's some trees out back of my house, very tall trees, and I'm worried that they're going to come down and fall on my house. I'm told they belong to the water company.
Okay.
And I'd like to have them cut down before they do fall down.
I see the Public Works crew in the back actually making some notes, so you'll be probably getting a call soon, Mr. Freeve, okay?
Very good.
Thank you, sir.
I can say Ron is my across the street neighbor, and they sway, and it's just going to take one big gust storm, and it's going to come right down on top of his house,
and half of them rotted.
Yeah.
They're dangerous.
They're big.
I'm expecting they'll be hitting you up for contact information, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Next item 12.
Is the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Seeing none, Order 2018-125 to approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants, number 137 for $28,613.51, number 138 for $131,845, number 139 for $12,305.14, number 140 for $179,407.19, number 141 for $23,721.53, number 142 for $416,848.86, number 143 for $31,907.77. The school accounts payable and payroll warrant, number 1824 for $78,429.41. The minutes of June 5, this set the public hearing for July 10th for tomorrow, Topsy doing door-to-door sales for Southwestern Advantage, and to ratify the June 12th, 2018 election results.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
What is Tarmo Tapsy doing business as door-to-door? What do we...
He would be an itinerant vendor. We haven't had door-to-door sales in a long time.
Yeah, what is he selling?
The books from Southwestern Advantage Company.
Educational materials. I actually got a visit from him this weekend.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Russian exchange student.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I didn't give him the hairy eyeball when he showed up on my porch. I absolutely did.
Right.
But he's a well-spoken young man, pretty funny.
I believe there's a picture on Facebook with Twyla.
How did I get talked into that? Too funny.
I've met you. I could probably figure it out. I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Got the second. One or the other. All in favor?
7-0 now. Thank you.
Thank you, Twyla. Next.
Council orders, ordinances, and resolutions. Order 2018-126, the use of undesignated fund balance.
And in your packet, I gave you a list of recommendations, and we put this first on the agenda because some of the items on this are not in the budget that you're going to be approving
next. So we thought if you could approve the unassigned fund balance recommendations, then we can move on to the budget.
And the 75 grand that we talked about for the munis.
You've already done that.
That's already been committed, so
that's
this is
already
about
been
that.
committed. Yep.
Okay.
And the heating upgrades to the library that we talked about, is that coming out of previous year?
It's going to, whatever we have left in that account, we're going to carry, you're going to do carry forwards at the next meeting, so it's going to come out of that.
Okay, so it's not something we need to budget
Yeah.
for in this next year?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Anything else that anybody thinks of from all the budget discussions that we've had that we haven't covered in this? Hearing nothing, I need a motion.
I make the motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you. Next item, Twyla.
Order 2018-127 to adopt the fiscal year 19 budget resolves.
How do we handle this one? Is this an aggregate or is it individual like the school?
You can move to adopt the fiscal year 19 budget resolves and explain that they include the 2018-19 municipal budget totaling $9,558,508 with estimated revenues of $3,236,739 with orders for setting the tax due date as September 17th and March 15th. Interest rate at 8%, applying taxes to the oldest unpaid tax bill, orders for collection of taxes in advance, acceptance of state aid funds, and order for the sewer budget totaling $1,129,216 with estimated revenues of $1,216,960 and setting the sewer rate at 6.72 per 100 cubic foot, and order for the tax club policy and the capital improvement plan.
Make a motion to
That's an
actually
excellent
bring
answer
forward
on
what
her part.
Twyla just described.
She did it. You did an excellent job.
And
Hey, can I, quick question? Well, go ahead.
all of the orders are in your packets and
Correct.
available online, each individual budget.
I have a first. I need a second.
Second.
Now the question.
So yeah, and Diane, you may not have this. That's okay. You can get it to me when you get a chance. But I know that revenue has steadily increased. Anything in this budget that last budget, I should say, that we just closed out of. Is there any way to kind of look at how much the revenue has increased over the last few years?
Yes. Lydia can put that together.
Great. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just I want to get an understanding of the gauge on that.
You're going to see the biggest change in the excise tax.
I know
That's
that was
still
the tops.
going up.
Yeah.
So
We expect it to be over 100,000 in this the year we're going to close out at the end of the week, more than what I projected.
Which is fantastic. And I really kind of I wanted us to put our arms around that and understand where we're trending. I'm sure there'll be a ceiling somewhere. We'll plateau eventually.
We will
Let's
eventually,
not,
but
let's hope
with
it's not going to be for
all
a
the
while.
people moving into town because of the new construction, I see this going on for another year or maybe two.
Oh, that's
before it
terrible.
plateaus.
Can you
I know, right?
possibly do that as an item for July's meeting? So just a quick and dirty. That would be great. And I know June will be over, it'll be all tentative, but at least you have an idea on the revenues beside. By all means, that would be great.
Thank you, Lydia.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next item.
Oh, you didn't want to do it by roll call, right? Just,
No.
all right.
Not if I don't have to.
7-0.
It's an order, not an ordinance.
Order 2018-128, award striping bid.
Come on down, sir.
Good evening. Tom Martin, Public Works Director. We received bids for the annual road striping, which is basically the double yellow center line and white edge line, about 175,000 feet. And we budgeted $20,000 for the upcoming year, and we received a bid of $19,223 from Lucas Striping, who subsequently did it last year as well. So looking for that award so we can get that done.
I'll make the motion.
Please.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I had a couple of questions if I could. My question had nothing to do with the motion. It refers to the fact as awarding this with not to exceed. I would actually make that motion at $19,223.80. In that regard, My question is we budgeted 20. I like seeing this from the perspective of we know what was actually budgeted. We know that the amount is under budgeted. My question comes, I would like to know when we have estimated quantities and this kind of stuff, when does a change order come back to us? Not so much for a $19,000 item, but with the $1 million item for the sewer that's later in the agenda. If that thing comes back $100,000 over budget because of estimated quantities being low, when do we get told? My question would
Well,
be
that was something that obviously flags would go up in the air because the engineer would, a $1 million project's not going to happen overnight. This could,
right.
This will be quick.
Agreed.
But a $1 million project's not going to happen overnight. So we do estimated pay requisitions. We've done a pretty comprehensive estimate for this project. So with some surprising results on the bid side, as you probably have seen. So which is nice. So, but yeah, change orders. If it was a significant issue, we would. I'm sure the town would come back. We would come back to the council with some recommendations, or the engineer would, as to what the change order was and why, and a recommended path to go forward. Because like with that project, it's really the
what it comes
funding
down.
agency that we're gonna have to go back to anyway.
And typically, we handle them internally, but if we get a change order, and we'd know this in advance, and it was going to exceed the total bid, that 1.1 million, it would definitely have to come back to council. That doesn't typically happen, but if it did, we would have to come back to council, because all those quantities are estimated right now.
And I get that, but that's the point that I'm trying to make to the public here. This bid is $19,223. The estimated quantities are just that. They're estimated. They could come in higher, they could come in lower.
Right.
The budget item for this is $20,000. My question that I would have is the fact that I've been sitting here for 2.5 years. I've not heard of a change order coming back before the council. I want to know what that mechanism is and that we do have that.
Right.
Because again, one of the things I liked in your recommendation, it clearly says to the public what was actually budgeted for this and that the estimate came in lower. The fact is, I'd like to know when that mechanism actually exceeds that the public is also made aware.
Making sure the bid is held to.
Yeah.
And if
Right.
it's not,
Exactly.
what the reason is for it.
Right.
Exactly.
Which we do.
And
We
there's
look
certain things that can come into play. If we change the scope, a change order is going to come back before us. But if the change order did not have a change in scope and it's strictly on quantities, are we still below that budget estimate that we actually had for this? Was it $1.5 million that we had set aside for this? And the fact is we're still within it, then we are good because it means you got good pricing.
Right.
And the point that I'm making is you're communicating to the public the good faith, and nothing is actually in that, because I can speak to experience in Lewiston. Is the fact is change orders can be just as caustic a discussion associated with anything else associated with the contract.
Agreed.
That's the only reason I bring it up. And I know we got new staff in it. I liked your recommendation. I would like to applaud that to be able to move that forward, just to tighten that up a little bit if we could.
Do you have a change, though, to the
I
striping?
do actually. We have the transfer. It's huge too. Just on the initial list, the transfer station wasn't on that. And
Okay.
I didn't pick it up till after it went out, and so it's another $93. It looks to be $93.50, but I googled it.
Okay.
Just took a measurement. So
Again, it's an estimate.
yeah.
It's an estimate. We are awarding $19,223.80. We've set aside 20. My point being is when we go above that funding source, there's got to be another discussion, because
Right.
where's that coming
Exactly.
from?
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I was bringing it up.
Yep.
Thank you.
My question
any
is
other
much
questions?
easier. My question is much easier than Alan's. I know the striping bid doesn't include any stripes down Main Street because it's a DOT project in the future, right?
Yeah, they'll be mill and filling that, and they will stripe that themselves.
Okay, good, because tell them what we want, nice, big, bright, orange Moxie stripes down Main Street.
Nice.
So was the motion
I'm
not
confused, yeah.
not to exceed the 20?
That's the original motion by Chris.
Because he's going to
made
have
by
extra
Cass.
because of what he just said for the transfer
I would have no
station.
problem with that, but that was the dialogue that I'm having in this. Is the fact
Right.
that the other one,
What did you make
the
the
other,
motion on?
the other ones,
On the not to
Yeah.
exceed.
To
award the bid.
yes.
This was the discussion phase of the program.
But if you look at the next one that's on there, he has clearly listed St. Lawrence amount. He did not list it at an amount that's above that at
Right.
all. That's
Right.
we need to be consistent in what we're actually doing, because I assure you that red dot is listening. You know, there may be 6 people in here any given night, but they're pretty well tied into what's going on in here.
For this one, there's a motion and a second.
Yes. All in favor?
Is it for the one
Hold on,
not to
hold on.
exceed 20,000? Is that correct?
Well, Chris made the motion, so what'd you make the motion on?
The motion was for the price, but not to exceed $20,000. Isn't
Right.
that how it's written?
That's the way it's written.
Is
Correct.
there an amendment to put it at 19,223.80 or
And then we
did
need
I
to
hear
add his
that?
9850. He's already changed it, so I would say no. I would go with his.
Just leave it with the
Leave it
20.
his motion as written. Exactly.
Thank you for the clarification.
We were clear on the motion, not to exceed 20 grand.
Correct.
All in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for my multiple left turns. Next item.
Order 2018-129 to adopt the 2018 Hazard Mitigation Plan Resolution and the 2017-18 Androscoggin Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for having me this evening. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the hazard mitigation plan for the county, including the municipalities. And if, as we go along, there are some questions that I don't have the answer to, Joanne Potvin, the Director of the County Emergency Management Agency, has joined us. So hopefully we can get all the questions answered. I just want to give a brief overview before we move forward to educate the public also. The purpose of the plan is to provide a condition for receiving non-emergency disaster assistance or financial assistance to fund mitigation projects or what's often called disaster minimizing projects. So this has a lot to do with public works. It might mean culverts, road improvements, infrastructure improvements. It's important to adopt the plan because if we do, we are eligible to receive funding. The town must approve it and adopt it in order for us to be eligible for certain funding, which has been used by municipalities in our county and across the state pretty constantly and is very helpful to towns when there are bigger projects going on. The process, every 5 years, the plan is reviewed and revised at every level. First, the county, local, and state officials, along with AVCOG, met to work together and review and revise the plan. I attended those meetings along with our previous Lisbon Public Works Director, Ryan Layton. He and I worked together to make our list for Lisbon as extensive as possible so that when the opportunity arises, Lisbon can be eligible for funding. Some items were completed projects, so they were removed from the list. It's important to note that we can add to the list throughout the years until the plan is revised again. It's revised every 5 years. We made recommendations for Lisbon regarding needed projects, and I worked with both Mr. Layton and the town manager to put that list together. We revised it to be current. The Maine Emergency Management Agency, the County EMA, and AVCOG worked to put all those lists from every municipality together and into the updated plan. And then a draft was sent to FEMA for federal conditional approval. So where we are now, every municipality must approve the draft, and that's why we're here tonight. If we don't approve it, we'll be ineligible for funding that may become available for the projects we need. The plan is not a guarantee that we will receive funding, but it is a condition of eligibility. So that's why we put as many things as we could on the list, and we'll look at that list. The most important part for us is the list of projects, but we should take a look at the plan overall to answer any questions you may have. Afterwards, with council's approval, the county EMA will send all of the municipal approvals to the state, and then the state will send all those approvals to FEMA for final approval. So did I leave anything out? Okay. You may have noticed, I don't know if you have full printed versions or if you, they did, okay. So it's a pretty good sized document. The areas that I think are the most important to look at, and you've all had a chance to look at it. If you have any questions along the way, or if you have any questions, if I'm going too fast, just let me know. It's a pretty dry document. It's government. So what we did in the first section was make sure that we have in our plan, which goes to the state level and then goes to the federal level, what kind of geography we have here, what kind of climate we have, and how each municipality is governed, so that when we ask for assistance or grants, then it's already on paper how we work that. So we included municipal, populations and demographics, and this is all information for state and federal level to make sure that they have all the information they need down the line. We did also include transportation, roads, highways, et cetera, and a brief, incredibly brief, I think it's 3 small paragraphs, and not one of them has more than 3 sentences on the history of the county. So then we moved to any questions about section 1, because really just history and how we work. Section 2 are the prerequisites for the plan, and a list of the adoption resolutions for each town. We are one of those towns. And there's a sample in there, and then we have an official one for the council to sign if and when adopted. The third section is the planning process. That was important to make sure that we have in writing how we went through the process to make the plan. The county and the state have done it quite a few times before, so having it in writing means that each year, when we look at how we did it the year before, if there's anything that we need to change, where it's on paper, like this didn't work, we can make it work, but it runs pretty smoothly. I went over that in my overview at the beginning. I attended all of I don't think I missed any meetings. I attended all of the planning meetings that we needed to have, and Mr. Layton made himself available to me outside the meetings, and was really great about making sure that we didn't miss anything that we would need in our part of the plan. So the next section is risk assessment, looking at identifying hazards and making sure that we know what kinds of hazards we're susceptible to in not just the state and county, but in our town specifically. So we use these pages to come up with the projects that we have listed for the town of Lisbon. So section 4 is a pretty healthy section of types of hazards. The top 4 hazards, if you're trying to keep up with me by pages, I'm on page 4-4. We have to profile the hazards so that when we ask for assistance or grants to help with funding and the mitigation projects, so that we know that we're asking for something that's in the plan. So you can't ask for projects to be covered that aren't in the plan already. So it just outlines what those things are. The 4 top hazards for our area are flooding, severe summer storms, severe winter storms, and wildfire. And we've seen a little bit of that here and there every year, so it's good to have those on paper. In Lisbon, we would be affected by dam failure, for instance. We could be affected by flash floods, ice jams. We have 2 rivers that meet here in Lisbon. Spring rain and runoff could be an issue, and urban issues,
storm sewer systems, that sort of thing, that could be affected. So there are good examples and more detailed information in the plan itself. There's also a list of all of the dams in the county, and Gulf Island Dam is, of course, the dam that is most important to us for our purposes. I don't work closely with Joanne's office in this sense on a daily basis, but that office is very good about making sure we have updates consistently and constantly on every kind of issue that might be a problem. So not only for events like last October's windstorm and rainstorm, but also things like the spring rains and snowmelt and how it's affecting the state overall and how it could affect us. And then also updated on, the droughts that we've had for the past the drought that we've had. So we're able to stay on top of things, and if there's something coming along in our direction that would affect Lisbon specifically, then we would be able to take a look at what sorts of mitigation we could do for that. It also lists all the Little Androscoggin doesn't affect us, Nazinskit doesn't, Sabattis does, and so does the Androscoggin. Then we also discuss, later in Chapter 4, we discuss the probability of future events. And so this is something that we review every 5 years so we can reassess what kinds of problems we could run into. Winter storms we all know about, things like that. So there's a probability for future events in each kind of disaster. So they're all listed. I'm just going to... Did anybody else actually read this besides me?
Actually skimmed through. It's a lot of information. Loads. Yes.
Riveting document.
Parts of the assessment are important really as reference. If somebody says, do you think this might be covered by, do you think this this culvert might be covered by a hazard mitigation funding, we can take a look at it. We have something on paper. We have a guide. So that's why it's so important. And we also have reimbursement summaries, so you can see later in sort of towards the end of Chapter 4, you can see what kinds of funding are offered, and it's pretty consistent. I'm going to skip all of that, unless there's anybody who has a question about it. We move to... so the rest of Section 4 was about estimating the costs also. So Section 5 is the part that I was really wanting to get to, because that's local hazard mitigation goals, mitigation strategies, objectives, and action plans. So at the very beginning of Section 5, you can see the countywide goals and mitigation actions, which include encouraging municipalities to work with the county agency, providing information and so forth. And then each type of specific kind of disaster, like severe winter storms, wildfires, the other things we talked about in Section 1. There's also a list in Section 5, 5-5 is the page, that has to do with floodplain management. Because we have rivers, and we do need to stay on top of that as much as possible. Lisbon, we haven't had to have a floodplain ordinance since 2008, but it doesn't seem to be outdated. It still seems to be current. We move on to criteria and so forth, but Our favorite part, because Ryan and I worked a long time on that, is the section. You can see what other towns have done, so that's the good thing about looking at the list of what other towns do for projects. So Lisbon starts on page 5-22. Yes. And you can see the projects. Again, it's good to have more eyes on this than just a few, and that's why I like that you all have a copy of this. And if anybody has any questions about any of the individual projects we put down, we prioritize them and put them in order of priority for Lisbon. Borough River Road project to upsize the culverts and rebuild the road. The Davis Street project would be to improve drainage and elevate the road and repave it. River Road, improved drainage. Upland Road, improved drainage and rebuild the road. Our fifth one is at the pump station to elevate the generator and electronics at the Route 196 Davis Street station. And then next is to improve drainage on Ferry Road near Clay Corner to minimize the erosion that's going on there, and also to enlarge the culvert and investigate additional drainage problems. There are a lot of big problems there. I'm going through the projects, but there are also a lot of them. The first five, the responsible agent is the road commissioner, but we could look through and see there's nobody technically responsible for the Ferry Road. Public Works and Road Commissioner are responsible for most of these. Some of them we did list projects that we already finished. You can see that quite a few projects have been done with town funds, or they're projected to be. And we need to plan for that. But if there's, Joanne, if I could, I don't think I have the right wording down for this, but when are funds requested to help with a project that's listed in the plan?
Good evening, Joanne Potvin, County Director for the Emergency Management Agency. The process for applying for funds is really when you take a look at your list of projects and you find something here, perhaps it's been prioritized, that if a major event happened, a major natural phenomenon event happened, that a particular part of town would be affected. For instance, you have a culvert that's too small, and every time we get an inch of rain, the road floods, we have erosion, and you have to spend money to fix the road. That would be a project that would be eligible for some hazard mitigation funding. What would happen is the funds come out about twice a year, usually early in the spring and later in the fall, early winter. The awarding of funds is based on a competitive basis, and the first thing to be done before funds can be awarded is a cost-benefit analysis. So you would sit down with the State Hazard Mitigation Officer, look at the project, how much money have you spent in the past, how much money would it cost to fix this project, what would be the worth of fixing the project with the money you're asking for. They will also take a look at what you've done and what you've paid for out of town funds for other projects. And then part of the application process would be to identify what would happen in the town if you didn't get money for this project, and we did have an event that would cause the culvert to really break down and the road to really flood out and and perhaps even wash away. So that's all part of the application process. Twice a year you get that opportunity. When I get notification that funds are available, I make the information known to all of the towns.
Great, thank you. She's been saying that much longer than I have. So you can see we have Lisbon continues all the way to page 5-23 with pump station generators, culvert upgrades, and so forth. Some of them are new projects. Some of them are projected to be done with town funds. But again, if the funding comes available and we are able to get funding for any of those projects, then it would be really great for Lisbon to not have to pay for the whole thing. So the rest of that section is all the rest of our county, so I'll just leave that be. So the final section of the plan is a plan maintenance process. And it just states that we have to meet every 5 years to reassess and rewrite the plan and revise, that we have to monitor it, and that it has to be incorporated into existing planning mechanisms. I think the whole process, it started in February. Did we start in February? Yeah.
That's been about a year and a half.
About a year and a half. But it seemed to go smoothly. It's a pretty well-oiled machine with AvCog helping to put everything together, and the help that the county and subsequently the municipalities get from MEMA is really valuable too. So, so that's our plan. Again, just emphasizing the fact that it's adopting a plan that is really good for us. We can keep adding to the plan as we go. So as our Public Works Director or Public Safety officials realize issues that could be addressed through mitigation, rather than waiting till something bad happens and costs a ton of money and maybe even lives, mitigating it in advance is always a benefit. So, and it can save money in the end. So I'm confident this is the best plan that we could have. It's not just maybe our county has the best one, but
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or?
No, pretty involved, a lot of work. Thank you. I make a motion.
Need a second.
Got it.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Alan, can I just say something?
Please.
I just want to thank Joanne. I don't know if you know, but she's retiring after I don't know how many years, but several years of work at the county, and she's done an incredible job for all the municipalities here in Androscoggin County. And as you know, I pass on some of the emails that we get during a potential disaster, and she really updates us on a regular basis. And I just want to say thank you for all you did, and you're going to be missed.
Congratulations. Yep. Enjoy your retirement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How many days? She knows exactly.
Not counting, but.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, 12.
Order 2018-130, the fiscal year 2018 Homeland Security Grant.
Good evening, Mark Hagan, Police Department. So we have the opportunity to apply for the 2018 Homeland Security Grant. These funds are non-matching federal funds. We haven't been advised of the specific amount awarded yet. However, the town of Lisbon generally gets plus or minus $4,000. In the past, we've used this to purchase new laptops for the cruisers, as well as a security system for the town offices and police department here. If we are given permission to apply for and accept the non-matching funds, if I didn't tell you that already, we have a few things that are on our wish list, which again is more computers for the cruisers, infrared thermal camera, uninterruptible power supplies for the computers, various minor things, depending on what the award is. Again, we just need to make it work with roughly $4,000. So we're asking for permission to apply for, and if we receive it, accept the federal funds.
Need a motion?
Yeah, second.
I got the first and second.
Somewhere over here.
Yeah, exactly. All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Well played, sir.
Good job. Thank you.
Next.
Order 2018-131, Cook's Lobster and Ale House, off-premise catering permit to change the start time. This also includes in the motion to approve Campus Avenue street closure from Berry Avenue to Campus Commons driveway from Friday at 2 p.m. to Sunday at 12 p.m.
I got the from 6 to 5 for the hours changed on the Ale House.
It was 6 to 8, wasn't it?
Yeah, but pulling it back.
5 to 8 now?
5 to 8 now.
Okay,
What was the original closure and what was the change?
I think we probably didn't specify the Friday
The-
to and Sunday at 12. We just closed the street. So this is specifying the time that the street will be closed
Okay.
now.
Any other
For
questions?
set up and tear down.
I think we might have somebody
Please,
in the
please, sir.
Why was that given to an out-of-town entity?
It's actually one, come on up, sir. It was actually presented through Positive Change Lisbon, and it's who actually partnered with them that has the appropriate catering license to be able to do so.
Okay, so nobody in town has that license, or?
I can't speak to that specifically, but I know that they had the approach that had the correct insurance and the catering license to be able to do so.
What
Are you,
percentage
was there anybody?
of those profits will return to the town or to the Moxie Festival?
The
It's a private function. Well, it's put on by Positive Change.
PCL puts that
Correct.
event on, so, yeah.
It's part of the concerts in the park.
It's part of the concerts. I mean, we were hoping to actually have a local business be able to do it. Unfortunately, it's due to the necessary requirements, licensing and permitting. It actually had to be done by a vendor that actually does work pretty closely with some of the local businesses.
Okay,
and that's where the recommendation came from.
You looking for a motion?
I need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
Second.
I got the first, I got the second. All in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
Next item.
Order 2018-132, the planning services contract.
Our friend Ben.
Yeah, this is to authorize a new one-year planning contract with North Star Planning LLC, an amount to not to exceed $21,250, and to authorize a town manager to sign the agreement. The current contract is with Community Planning Studio, and she's been subcontracting with North Star Planning this past year. So Ben has been actually doing most of the work all year long, so we'll just continue on with him. So we have to have a contract with him.
I know we talked about this in the budget workshop pretty extensively, so realizing that there may be curtailing, I think it's smart to sign the 1 year because who knows what it's going to be like next year, whether or not we'll have the need.
And may
We're
I?
not
Please.
required to go out to bid for a contracted service like this.
They didn't do it with Amanda when they did it with because she was working at the time with was it Wright and Pierce, and then they just continued on with her because she was doing work already with the town, and this is sort of the similar circumstance. They didn't. You already set the precedent, not you, but at the time.
Right.
Previous
Because,
council.
yeah, I mean, you could go out to bid, but where Ben's been
Latitude
working on
within
all
the
the
purchasing
projects,
policy to get to how we've gotten to this point.
I think that you would set yourself back by bringing somebody new on that has not been a part of any of the projects that's going on, especially the comprehensive plan, which is not done yet, and he's still working on that. So I think that's kind of, I don't
We
know
leave it
what
open.
happened in the past, but that's probably the
How they got
reason
to
why
here.
they continued on, is because they had somebody that was familiar with what was going on at the time here in Lisbon. Probably the Route 196 master plan was being worked on. And to take somebody out of that loop and put somebody brand new in, it just probably didn't make sense. And
With the comprehensive plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to pull back what we talked about in the workshop. There was talk that could be put, we could put a bow on that this year. Is that right?
Yes.
So if we do, then the reality is we can revisit this and maybe even if
Exactly.
we wanted to investigate that. If we're going to go to a new place and bring in a new planner, then maybe we could talk to some other folks.
Having a yearly renewal, I think, is important, and also, if I may,
Please.
and I did talk to Diane a little bit about the idea of the wording in there. As far as for one of the concerns I had was mainly to actually have the accountability come the end of the year, what we use the dollars towards and the hours allowed for that, and I think in this contract it was it reworded to actually have a quarterly report, or was that just going to be more of an assumption as we move into it?
I don't know if I actually included that. I think I might have, but
Okay.
that's, he knows, and
Yeah.
we will stay on top of that.
In the past, we really actually haven't had one agent that actually overviewed the amount of work that was
Right.
done throughout the year, and hopefully this year, moving into next year, we'll have a little bit more of a track record going into the end of the year to say this is where the money was allotted for and this is what we got done for the projects. Just because in the past there's been so many projects that there was overabundance of what we needed to do, and now we're going to try to streamline those a little bit. So With that process, hopefully Diane at the end of the year will be able to tell us this is what we used it on and this is what we got for the hours. So.
Are we putting some deadlines on some of these projects as well?
I know there's one currently in play for the comp plan target date. Beyond that, I don't.
Dragged out, like I mean,
Yeah, that's the only thing I could speak to because I don't. I think the question becomes what's next. Yeah. The beyond the comp plan that we haven't hit that agenda yet.
And I think the quarterly reports will actually help with that too. So we'll know where we're still working towards and what we've completed.
The 21,250 is the amount that we talked through the budget. If I'm going to sign the contract, I would like to see the quarterly that we talked about during the budget negotiations in that to formalize that objective.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it's, I'll go back through it. If it's not there,
If it's
I'll
not
add
there,
it to it.
I would ask
Yep.
that it be put in there.
Put that in your motion that I put that in the
Correct.
contract.
Because that was a key point to be able to have that communication because the indirect line to here is everybody knew the 196 corridor and then the next topic and then the comp plan. Now we're at that point, well, what's the next? That forces that dialogue to be something that he has a vested interest in being heard.
I'll make a motion to approve the planning services contract contingent upon the language for a quarterly report being included.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Order pass, 7-0.
Next.
Order 2018-133, the sewer system upgrade bid award.
So I'm Steve Avioli, sewer superintendent. We began the process several years ago. We advertised and ultimately hired Oliver Associates to do a sewer system evaluation. Came through with a whole list of upgrades that our system desperately needs. Currently, we got funding to do about $8.8 million worth of upgrades. Phase one of these upgrades is sewer replacements, which we're looking to get the award tonight to have St. Laurent do the work. We put it out to bid in May, about May 12th. It was out to bid for a month. St. Laurent's bid came back in at $1.1 million. And the bids, we received 3 bids. 1.1 was St. Laurent, just under 1.5 for Nitram, and just over 1.6 for Ranger Contracting. And this project was estimated to cost approximately 1.6 to 1.8 million. So the amount that St. Laurent bid is well worth us accepting, just for the fact that as contingencies out of that total 8.8 million that we have, we're going to be able to have other projects that we can basically do down the road, which involves pump station upgrades, treatment plant upgrades, that we can use this money that's left over from the total projects that we already have planned for that 8.8 million.
Do you have any flexibility in the estimated pricing that you actually got from St. Laurent to add additional scope to be able to come at us with a change order that's advantageous? Because you originally bid this at coming in at 1.6. If we got $500,000 available, is there a change order that potentially could come from that to work within this existing contract?
There potentially.
That's the end game of where I was going with earlier, because this is a much larger project to be able to get work done for what I see as favorable pricing.
No, you're absolutely right. I would see in the amount of maybe about 10% of that amount, maybe a fair guesstimate to of where we may be.
Yep.
Just no guessing, because the scope of work in this $1.1 million is about 8,100 feet of pipe being replaced in the ground. So to be able to even guess at 10%, I very well could be off.
Okay. Who gave us originally the contract estimate? Would that come from Oliver too?
Yes, it did.
Perfect. That's the resource associated with that to be able to base that on the numbers. Now, at best, was that a current, or was that based on the original report that may be 18 months old at this point?
It's about 18 months old now.
So it was part of that original report.
And typically you would see in 18 months projects would get more expensive, higher than the estimate, where we're substantially lower.
Right. No.
Devil's advocate here. Since that is significantly lower than the initial estimate, have we used St. Laurent for any other projects previously, and were we happy with the work that we got? Because this is a pretty low estimate, so usually I fall back to the you get what you pay for, and I just want to know that. And I want to hear somebody say that we've used them before we had any trouble.
I would have no qualms using St. Laurent because they have a significant investment in infrastructure in LA entirely in that regard. The fact that this is as close to a local business that you're actually going to come. I have heard of Nitrame and Ranger. They're both quality firms too. You have a solid low-cost bid in St. Laurent.
They're the ones that actually did our last trail. They did our last river trail, and one of the things is just kind of, any as they say, flexibility in pricing a little bit, because the river trail by itself actually ended up having some serious change orders, and actually that extra could get swallowed up pretty quick. So right. That's a lot of piping. There's a lot of potential concerns, but again, I mean, I think if we can actually try to keep it on task, and if we have an opportunity to do more after, that's great. I have one other question, if
please.
We could. Now, just for the public, I mean, anytime when people think of a water line or solar line being replaced down the road, how much is there anything calculated into this at all as far as for the stubbing off into individual homes that may need to be upgraded, or actually is there any areas that we're doing the houses may need to actually be plumbed in if they're actually there and not actually plumbed in at this point in time? I know there are some guidelines and some ordinances as far as for that.
Some of that has not been taken into account. Actually, people that are not connecting in. With the way these replacements are being scoped out, is everything under the pavement is going to be replaced, including the laterals to the basically edge of the road, to the property line. And that's, it's advantageous on our end, because in some instances the elevation may not be exactly the same. It could, if we did not do that, you could end up with problems down the road. Homeowners can end up with problems down the road. Yep. So it's basically, it's a benefit to them and a benefit to the town also.
So pretty much the existing pipe and any stubs off right now will be replaced to the property line, and then anything beyond that, if there's a concern, the pipe's crumbling, then it would be up to the homeowner at that point in time, very much like it would be for water, right, once you get onto that. Now, I know when we went through some of the earlier information on sewer, that if you go buy a house that's on a septic system right now and they're within a certain amount of feet to this new pipe, that they would be required to actually connect on. And is that part of that scope, or is that actually not a legitimate,
That has not even been brought up in conversations that I'm aware of, unless Ryan has had that conversation with the people at Oliver.
Yeah.
If they're within 2 feet of the sewer and the septic system is failing, by ordinance they are required to connect to the sewer versus replacing that septic system.
Yeah. But if it's active, they're not necessarily required to. Okay.
No.
All right. I wasn't sure. I knew there was some discussion on the idea of potentially needing to hook in, but I guess the question would be is if you go buy a house that's not hooked up, does it still get stubbed out to their house just in case it does fail down the road, that they will be able to hook in?
That would be to our benefit to do that to every house along those roads.
Okay.
And that's just because of the fact that it'll protect the surface of the road that much longer.
And the only reason I'm asking, there's a lot of people probably watching tonight that are wondering what these projects are and how that's actually going to affect them as it goes by. So, thank you.
I was going to say, you just brought up the surface of the road, so I'm the noob on this, so I'm going to ask the question. When they replace the pipe, they're going to have to patch the road, and we've done a lot of work around the road, so I just want to make sure I understand that, and that's part of this contract, right?
The rural development funds will only cover repaving the trench that is dug for the pipe replacement. And part of what Ryan had already planned and Tom Martin has been working on is the majority of the roads where these pipe replacements are taking place are in need of a pavement, or be paved. And so the paving for this next fiscal year is actually going to be on those roads.
Excellent. Part of the paving package that we.
I just wanted to hear that be said out loud. That was exactly what we're still sticking with that plan, and that was the goal, because change of department heads, sometimes directives change as well, and I just wanted to hear that.
Yes, and
perfect.
We're still working on the exact scope of the pavement and the distances, just because some of the roads are in decent shape. Some of the roads definitely need to be paved, and we're working out those details now.
Perfect. I am the red dot. Thank you.
I need a motion.
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
I got a first and a second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next.
Order 2018-134, Avcog joint purchase for road salt, 2018-19.
Go for it. Oh, here he comes.
Tom Martin, Public Works Department. I believe we go with a joint bid with Avcog, so we're just looking for permission to sign up with them to share in their hopefully their cost savings in salt purchase. So I think we're going to be looking for about 3,000 tons this year.
I think the 2.6% increase is fair. I saw the same information on my desk this morning when I got back from vacation myself, that I'll be presenting the same recommendation to our finance committee. So I
Need a motion?
need a
I'll make the
motion.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Order 2018-135, the MMA official ballot for the Legislative Policy Committee.
I think Anthony Ward and Mark Lunt are going to do an awesome job, so that would be my recommendation and motion. I need a second for
I'll
that.
second it.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Is that a no?
Thank you, Mark.
I don't know if I should vote on myself. I clearly saw this holding onto the paper. So.
Order one.
Well, yeah, I'll abstain.
Yes.
Okay.
No question.
All right.
Other business, school committee, sir.
Yes.
All good?
Everything's fantastic. School's out and everybody survived.
Planning meets Thursday, so I'll have more.
Oh, and their
Water?
budget passed too, so they're pretty happy about that.
Correct. Water.
I didn't get a chance to make that meeting.
LDC.
That would be longer-winded. LDC is actually very active right now with the idea of us getting potential, not actually getting potential, but actually getting the grant, just potential money as it comes through. The group actually met up in Lisbon, did a walk around with the opportunity of the Graziano Corner. It just is endless possibilities up there. There's some really neat ideas, and I think there's going to be some big changes up there this summer that people should be excited about. Hopefully we will actually see some equal opportunities between Lisbon and Lisbon Falls when it comes to improvements. With that, I'm going to actually move forward with something that actually is another piece of paper on your desk. It's about the Lisbon Business Facade Grant Program. And the reason that's there, we're actually coming to the end of that program. It's not done yet. There's actually some remaining funds. And we're looking to do some improvements down in both areas of town with buying some benches and some new trash receptacles and a few other things. And Diane's been doing a lot of work on that, getting some ideas. And what she's found out is basically this is a grant that if we don't use the money, it goes back away. And there's some remaining funds. There's a couple of different things that Tracy's still working on, but there is some money there that potentially would not be used. And if we, as a council, work to actually change the guidelines on how this program works, we can use this federal money to actually buy these without costing us any money, which is basically the idea of just changing the guidelines as they were originally written. And so what I'm asking the council tonight is, I know it's not on the agenda, to actually I'll make a motion, and if you feel that's good, I will actually, hopefully we can move forward with it. I will actually let Diane speak on it very quickly. She has a lot more information than I do, but I think it's money there that we can use without spending any tax money to actually make improvements, which I think is a great way of doing it.
Yeah, so what we would want to do is to add to our guidelines that all municipal eligible projects would be exempt from the 50% minimum cash match, which right now that's if somebody, a business or a property owner, wants to take advantage of these facade grants, they have to come up with a 50% cash match. But for the municipal projects, we don't want to do that. We want to just be able to do it without a cash match because it's municipal property. And then we also wanted to add for eligibility, town amenities approved by CDBG are eligible for grant funds. And then we went further and added those on page
3.
3? Yeah. 3, we added trash receptacles, benches, and kiosk as possible, amenities that we could spend the grant funds on. Also, we did hear back from CDBG, and we have to do our final drawdown no later than December 21st this year. So that means whatever projects are out there that have been approved, they need to be done and completed, and we need to do our drawdown. And we do have some projects out there where we're still waiting for owner signature on the construction contracts, and they haven't even started, so, I mean, they're coming up against it, and at the next LDC meeting that we have, we're gonna ask the LDC to, along with Tracy, to set a deadline for accepting any more grants, because we're getting to the point now, if you accept a grant and by the time you go through the process and go through the bid process, there's really not going to be a lot of time for the construction to be done. So we don't want to have to send the funds back. So Tracy's really trying to get a hold of these people to get in to sign and get going on their projects, or else. Good? Wonderful.
It's important to know that the money that we're actually asking for tonight doesn't affect any projects that are already out there. This is money that actually hasn't been allocated for yet, if I'm correct. Yep. So if you'd like, I would make a motion to move things on to.
No.
Go ahead.
On the drawdown.
Sure.
We're not waiting on anybody that's actually, funds have been expended to actually sign off to be able to get the reimbursement back, correct? That's what I need to hear for the clarification for the listening dot in that regard, is that everybody here is actually, nothing gets released until they've signed off. They're waiting on sign-offs to be able to release the funds. That's what I was hearing.
Well, to be able to start the project.
To start the project?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted that clearly stated. Yeah. But yeah.
All right, so what I do, I'd make a motion to amend the Lisbon Business Facade Grant Program guidelines that's presented, and to designate up to $10,000 for facade grants to be used towards town amenities.
I need a second for that.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you. And that's it for me at the LDC.
I gotta follow that. Conservation. We're cutting down 2 maples at the gazebo. The Parks Department staff will be taking care of those, and it's my understanding they'll be replaced with 2 donated red maples. I got that report from Mark to be able to Norway maples, the invasive part. So those will be removed, and the red maples be going up to replace them.
I didn't realize how big those were till you stand back next to that.
Look at that. Yeah,
huge.
They're pretty impressive. I noticed that too. Recreation. County, nothing till fall. Library, sir.
The summer reading program kicked off today with a magic show at the MTM. I wasn't able to be there, but I heard it was great. So hopefully that'll be a whole nice, fun summer for the kids, and everybody can get in there and get reading.
Town manager.
So I just have one thing. As you know, we're working with the town of Sabattis on a dangerous building located on 340 Ridge Road. So we're doing it as a joint venture, and we need to set a public hearing. And right now, I don't want you to set it tonight. It'll come back to you on the agenda, but I just want to see if you're amenable to have it on September 18th, which is a normal council meeting night, but instead of starting at 7, we'd like to start at 6, because the Sabattis selectmen will need to come here for the public hearing, and that will allow them time to get back to Sabattis to have their regular meeting at 7.
Perfect.
If that's something you want to do, I'd like to put it on the agenda.
18 or 16? 18, right?
September 18th. Did I say 16th?
No, you
September
didn't.
18th.
She asked, and I wasn't sure if you said 16 or 18.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll put, if that's something
Rather
you
than
want.
another workshop, I would have no issue moving to the 6 o'clock to make it more convenient for
Perfect. And
everybody
I'll let
for
the
scheduling.
attorney
wise.
know that it'll be at 6 o'clock, so that.
Just call me ahead of time, make sure I'm awake.
No, that's on me. Like I said, if I was not coming through the door, it's 10 minutes of 6 myself. I would.
Same building Dennis talked to us about last time, was a historical tavern or something,
Yes.
right?
Mhm. Yes.
Thank
Right on the
Can you-
corner.
Yeah.
Also, when you talk to Tony there, we're coming up on the county budget stuff that'll be coming up in August, and I know we enlisted Mark to fill the seat, but if Sabattis can actually have somebody to be able to alleviate that, he might appreciate that.
Oh,
Yes,
instead of Lisbon?
yes.
Okay.
You know,
I'll
just
ask them.
just to afford it, if he's actually given it a thought, if he's got somebody that's actually there that would be working with them.
Okay, I will. And then moving on to the night Celotex update, we have a meeting this week. Dennis and I will be going to Topsom and meeting with the code enforcement officer and the town manager there, along with the property owner.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay.
So I'll have more to update you at the next
Is
meeting.
it the same property owner on both sides? Really? I thought it was.
Good. That's great news,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah.
Great. Department head reports. I want to thank the police, fire, CW, actually, the specifics of things that they're working on. The resource for education and patrols that are actually been done for police, that's very huge. The training from the fire department, seeing those kinds of things, they're pretty tangible to be able to know what people are working on in that. Let's leave it at that. Thank you.
Yep.
Next. Where are we?
Appointments. Order 2018-136 to consider new applications filed.
Right. We had the new application for the person that was looking for the appeals board with Ben Smith. That process has been vetted. There's nothing in the background check that came through. That said,
Motion?
I need a motion if you guys would entertain that.
I'll make a motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, Mr. Smith?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you.
And order 2018-137, the annual reappointments.
The following page, 189, right? Is that the one I'm looking at? We have Assessment Review Board for Mr. Fellows, Miriam Alexander. Board of Appeals, we have Bruce Marshall, Lisa Ward. Conservation Commission, we have Richard Nadeau and 2 vacancies. Library Governing, Michael Crosskill, Claire Parquette, sorry. Planning Board, we have Eric Mativier, Scott Hall, Karen Parody. And Recreation Committee, we have Lindsay LaRochelle that all need reappointment.
Throw them all out.
I'll make a motion.
That's her motion. That's
Can you do that all with one motion?
Absolutely, we can.
I
They're
second.
the reappointment. All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you.
And
Next.
Order 2018-138, the CDBG Advisory Committees would like to designate the LDC members to that.
My question on that one, can maybe you give us an understanding of what the committee is? Can we, rather than having 2 committees that we now have to staff in an environment where it's harder to get volunteers to staff committees, that we can actually maybe consolidate into one common goal?
Yes. Basically, that was the reasoning for that. All the members that are part of the advisory committee now with CDBG are really that of the LDC group. It just makes more sense as I continue to go after more funding, and I will continue, that we don't have to go out and try to appoint people all the time, that we can kind of do that by just whomever sits on this committee automatically, that will fall under that to be part of the advisory committee. And the advisory committee is just that. It's the same thing that LDC is doing now. It's really looking at different projects. We've got the $300,000 grant. They're going to be, looking at different ways, and we'll be working with, Tom and Public Works and what we're going to do with that. It just makes more sense because they've been part of that with the whole idea of the Route 196 master plan, of incorporating that and implementing that. And these CDBG funds are really going to be geared towards those projects.
Okay. So, and LDC is agreeable to the change in scope for this concept?
I don't think it really changes any of theirs.
It doesn't really.
The same
No,
goal.
it's the same.
Members of the same goal in the same direction.
So is the motion to actually dissolve the CDBG and have it be picked
Well, you
up?
can't really dissolve it, is because you have to put all of the names and everybody on the advisory committees on all the paperwork and the documentation. So for this new grant coming up, I'll have to do that. But instead of just having to go out and find people, it automatically that we'll just take a list of those folks and put them on the state paperwork that.
Just mirrors the attendance or the participation of the members.
Okay.
So.
I didn't know if, for formality from the charter perspective, if we're actually filling out paperwork on grants and that kind of stuff, is that now instead of putting in CDBG committee, you'd be putting in LDC, and we get to the same place, that we don't have another committee on the charter.
I think it still needs to be worded as the committee. But
That is correct. It will still need to be worded as the
Okay, and that's the only
CDBG
reason-
advisory committee.
That's
Yes.
the only reason I was asking, is the fact is it just,
I guess
we drive by the marquee and we see every committee's got a vacancy.
Correct.
I guess going forward, if there's a new application for the LDC, it would actually have to be just known that they're actually part of the advisory group also. It comes as a dual.
Right, right,
dual-
responsibility.
dual responsibility.
Right.
That'd really be the only change. Yeah.
I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Need a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you. Next.
Counselor Communications.
I got one. And since we were talking about school committee a little earlier, and the end of the school year saw the retirement of Dean Hall, 44 years in our school system. At one point or another, we either had Mr. Hall or our children had Mr. Hall. So I want to take a moment to yeah, we're both, exactly. I want to take just a moment of our time to recognize his contributions to all of the fine young men and women that have gone through his classroom and are better off for it. We definitely appreciate your commitment. And he's going to come back and do the track stuff, even though he's still retired, so those kids will still get to see him. But hats off to him for a nice, long career, and enjoy retirement.
Congratulations. Anybody else? Council Communications. Please.
I do. And again, as a member of the community and just the idea of what I'm kind of standing back watching LDC, I'd like to really take my hats off to new Public Works Director, Tom. He actually been over and beyond the idea of doing what his initial role is, I think, of his duties. He's actually spent time walking around listening with us and actually listening to all the wild and crazy ideas, and I'm sure there's one person that can kind of sort it out and make it all work, but it's just nice to see you get involved, and actually I think we're heading in some good directions with some of the ideas, and I think we have the right people in place to make it all happen. So thank you for being out there spending the extra time.
Anybody else? Next item, Paula.
Audience participation for new items.
Come on down. You going to waste your breath now?
Probably.
Okay.
I usually do. Dorothy Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. Curious, and I should have asked the question earlier under agenda items. How much money is there in the undesignated fund balance? Ballpark.
Before or after tonight's vote? You want the first?
Whatever.
Help me here. I'm trying to figure out the line.
Assigned fund balance, it's top, isn't it?
That's the top.
3,000,000.
2.816.
Okay, I'm wrong. Yeah, right. I didn't less the fiscal year 18.
And then you would take 475, 200 off that to bring you down to roughly 2,000,003. Dot.
2,000,003.
You'd have to forgive me. And the fact is, out of the words of Bill Murray, I didn't know there was going to be math.
My ask. What viewing public probably would be interested in knowing. Also, the town has taken possession of the Graziano lot.
We purchased.
Purchased it. Purchase price, and where did the money come from?
$80,000, and it came from the sale of town-owned property reserve account.
80,000. Any idea what you have planned for that lot?
Councilor Larochelle spoke briefly on that, but I'll let you field that one, sir.
Yeah, there's actually the group right now is working on, how would I say it? They're actually doing some rendering idea of what we want to look at. I mean, the initial goal is to actually make that intersection a pleasurable place to stop and look around. So the idea of just cleaning it up from what it is and actually making it a usable lot for now. With the long-term intention is no matter what we do there, that lot will always be an opportunity for if a business was to come in and actually have a really great idea to actually take over that lot and actually build something that would be beneficial to the town.
And meet the ordinance.
And meet the ordinance that the town would actually always be willing to listen to a business going in that spot. So we didn't buy it. The town did not purchase it to the sense of actually just trying to own more town property. They bought it to the idea of trying to actually start that road looking well, and happy to try to draw people in to actually try to expand the businesses up the road, and the idea of opportunity that someday that corner may be redeveloped and we could actually set the direction of where that redevelopment would go. So
well, hopefully with redeveloping the Lisbon Village area, would hopefully attract someone to that lot to do something with it. Food for
So you're
thought.
feeling what he's putting down. I like that.
Food for thought. Talking with Mark earlier, the beginning of the meeting, and I asked him about those wheels that are damaged when that garden at the intersection of School Street and Route 196, somebody plows into it at least once a year, and those wheels get damaged. There was a nice bush or tree there that was totally demolished the last time someone plowed into it. I'm putting out for consideration, maybe the town could install a solar light on that lot somewhere so that people will see that it is a garden and not a street, and stop plowing into it so that Public Works or the whatever won't have to keep going in there and making improvements, cleaning up the damage, removing trees, replanting flowers, repairing those wheels again. Just food for thought. A solar light won't cost anything to run, but it would make people aware that it is not a street. Thank you.
Flashing yellow light wouldn't keep you up at night.
Huh?
The flashing yellow light right there wouldn't
I
keep
don't
you up
care.
at night.
Put a cement barricade there.
Dot, looking over your shoulder, I saw Mr. Martin actually making notes, so I hope you actually feel that you did not waste your breath here tonight.
There you go.
That would be a change. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Ouch.
That's passive.
Ouch, that hurt. Son of a...
All right. No, you're doing a fine job, too. We appreciate that, Dot. Next item.
Under executive session, order 2018-139 to go into executive session per 1 MRSA, section 4056C, acquisition or disposition of real property or economic development.
Will we be coming back for a vote?
Yes.
Okay, so listening public, if you're interested, you can hang in the wings. For the first item in executive session, we're going to have at least one person sitting up front here that will be joining you. So, Counselor, you are excused. The rest of the audience, so are you.
What about the motion?
I
I'll
need
make a motion to go into executive session.
And
Need a
the second?
I'll second it.
And so this is are you 7-0 in favor of going?
Right.
Executive session, yes.
All right. And then you're going to be excused. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
please.
You look like you.
We're gonna pause for
telephone.
2 minutes. We're gonna pause for 2 minutes for a
right.
pee break.
I get a candy bar, I'm dying.
Go and do that, and then I'll reprogram it, so when you turn it back on, it will record and you turn it off. That's all you have to do. Okay. Shall I just leave my book in here? Yeah. The other one make it back down. What? And then I can
I
head
think you
out
got 4,
right?
right?
You don't need to come back, and I can take the minutes.
The red light's on, that means we're still filming, right?